Name, address and serial number? Yes. My name's Dawn Lewis, and what was the rest of it? Grew up in Queensland with my sisters and parents, but our family's from the Northern Territory. We're Wonga people. My mum came from Jungle, and my parents moved from Darwin after they started having kids down to southeast Queensland. Somehow I ended up in New South Wales, where they don't like cane toads. So like this pamphlet was produced by some of our relatives who wanted to commemorate the massacre of the Wonga people 120, 130 years ago now. Only recently was it really acknowledged, but even then, like most massacres in Australia, it's not legally acknowledged, it's just known. I guess for me, knowing that my family comes from a massacred tribe, I'd like to be able to use that knowledge to, in some way, put our family to rest, but also very conscious that what you put out there you can't get back, and our intellectual properties of Indigenous knowledge, but our biology as well, it can be abused, and it has been in the past. But I think I'm really fortunate that I'm part of that generation of people that have had the previous generation before us fight a lot to help us, even before we were born in many cases, but certainly before I got here. And so even though I was struggling at uni, because I was able to access resources, people, a community, because you can't have a university or in every country, that enabled me to, I guess, just take some risks, and they panned out all right. I had the goal of enrolling in a bachelor's of, I think it was paleoanthropology, and so I took on these sort of maths introductory units I hadn't really done in high school, but by the time I'd finished them, they'd gotten rid of that degree, so I had to make my own. And I ended up enrolling in a double degree, an art science degree. That's how I ended up with archaeology and genetics. That was my way of making paleoanthropology when it didn't exist at the time. I think if I'd known at the time what I was getting myself into, I wouldn't have done it. I think I would have rightfully thought that's too much science, but then, now I realise that I had no idea what my limits were at the time. The amount that I had learned, and maths is this whole other language that throughout school you just feel like if you're not good at it, it's just because you're not good at maths. Whereas in reality, you just haven't found the way to learn it yet. It's a rare person that can't learn maths. You just need to find the right person to teach you. I've been really lucky. Last year I didn't have to work so much. I received scholarships. So I got to choose when I worked, and it's amazing the release and how much less pressure there is on you when you don't have to work just to get by. Instead, you're working to be able to afford the extras, like the takeaways and that sort of thing. Failure is okay, it's okay to screw things up. As long as you keep trying at them. It's only really a failure if you never try again or you never learn from it. So, I failed at lots of things and only because of that was I able to do quite well at them in the end, or in something similar or adjacent. In the last few years, as I was applying for scholarships, I always fell into the same trap that I think most students at this university do, where you don't apply for scholarships because you assume somebody's better out there. And it means nobody ends up applying. And there are a lot of scholarships that go unclaimed, and that's the sole reason people just haven't applied. So one of the reasons I think behind that is it's really hard to talk about yourself. It's really hard. So I've had to learn to talk about myself, and then I've had to learn to believe what I say about myself. And then I had to learn to believe what other people say about me, which in some ways can be an immense amount of pressure, but in others it's good motivation. So finding a balance is difficult, and that's where taking time out for yourself is really important. Always being kind to yourself, I think, is the number one thing. I applied for a Masters of Archaeological Science at the University of Oxford, and I received a lot of help from Oorala and my supervisors. I was offered a place, and I was recently offered one of the Aurora scholarships to pay for the place, which is even more important. So at the moment I'm still waiting on my grade to confirm that I'll be able to go, but seems likely and hopeful. I use the Oorala Study Centre a lot. I think I became known for using the study centre, like for nesting in the study centre. So I would typically have long days at uni and then go to work. So it's just community, it's useful. There's definitely a strength that comes from our identities as Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people, as many of our externals are. And having a community of Indigenous people that are not your own community is extremely important.